fine. Welcome to the Movie Vault.
AKA Heaven.
My name's Ben.
And I'm Zach.
And today we're going to talk about what is probably the most perfect movie ever created.
Yeah, true.
Eraserhead.
I think we started out a couple episodes ago with Everything Everywhere All at Once. We said this was the weirdest movie we've ever seen. I think this is weirder.
Yeah, that's probably true. I would say that it definitely pushes the boundaries for movies as people would recognize them.
Recognizing it as a movie, you mean?
Yeah. Yes, that is exactly what
Instead of a clip show of unsettling images.
Yeah, this it pushes new frontiers. But I say it pushes new frontiers, and it's how old is it? 1977? So like 40 some years old.
Mm-hmm. 20 or 43 years old.
43 years old.
Or 45.
That's really old for all of you middle-aged people out there. That was a long time ago.
Yeah, that's our age's times too, Ben. That's crazy.
Now, ask any person who is in their 60s and would have been in their or was older than 60 whether they've ever watched this movie, and they'll probably have say to you, no, and then go show it to them and see what they think, because I'm pretty sure that if you watch this with your grandparents, they're gonna sit you down, they're gonna be like, hey son, that was a impressive cinematic experience that you showed me. Thank you for showing me that and allowing my mind to expand and think more about what we can do with practical effects and what we can do with sound design, and now I'm gonna have nightmares for the rest of my life, but it's okay.
Yeah, go watch this with your grandma. Just go sit down and say, Grandma, we're gonna watch a really nice movie, okay? And then see if your grandma hates you.
It's in black and white. It's in black. It has to be a nice movie.
I mean, I feel like if I had lived in times where movies were in black and white, I wouldn't want to go back, would I?
That's true. That is
I
an
don't know.
Interesting thing, because movies could definitely be made in color.
During this time. They intentionally made this black and white.
I mean, I watched The Godfather, and that was in color. Yeah, in color. So
was that originally?
I think it was originally in color. Yes.
Okay.
Pretty sure.
Okay.
They didn't go back and put the coloring on and paint it.
Well, sometimes they can do that.
Yeah, they do. They have done that.
Yeah. Like they did that like for old presidential speeches.
Really?
Yeah. It's crazy.
Yeah, that is kind of crazy.
But we don't need any of those special effects in this movie. All we need are some fake guts and blood and aliens and blood.
What do you think they used for some of that? Like oil and like...
it looked like someone chewed up food and put it in that alien baby's mouth. Didn't it?
Yeah, it did. So, without further ado, we'll go through the plot. This is a perfectly summarized two-part section of the plot, because I basically split this into two divisions. There's the first part of the movie, and then after that is the second part of the movie.
Perfect. Good splitting, then.
and the dividing line will be pretty evident in how I split them up. So here we go. Henry is a man who lives in an industrial area. I've said presumably Pittsburgh because I think David Lynch was somewhat based in Pittsburgh or Philadelphia somewhere. And he lives in a crappy one-room apartment and works as a printer, but he's on vacation. We have no idea why, but he just is.
Or why it's that long.
At the beginning of the movie, we see Henry's face floating by the moon or a planet of some kind, followed by a scary-looking man pulling levers with an evil look on his face. Inside of the planet, I believe. And now, back on Earth, we follow Henry, where he receives a communication through a neighbor that his girlfriend, Mary, called and wants him to come over and meet her parents. So her parents are two completely normal people. IMDb titles them Mr. X and Mrs. X. But I'm pretty sure the dad's name is Bill. And Bill drones on at the dinner table about how he's a plumber, and he also clearly has hearing issues because he talks so loudly. And my favorite line that he said is, "I've seen this neighborhood go from pastures to the hellhole it is now." And
the music gets really intense. Have you noticed that when he makes his entrance? But anyway, yeah.
And he seems really angry, but I think he's actually really nice. He just talks so aggressively.
He's smiling the entire time. Yeah, and a very creepy smile.
Yeah, so he's just off. And then they serve artificial chickens, and Henry's supposed to cut them because Bill can't because he had surgery and he's neuropathy or something in his arm because of the surgery. So Henry has to cut the chickens. And as soon as he tries to start doing that, they start like moving, and then like all kinds of like oil and gross stuff start coming out.
I don't know if that was oil, Ben.
I don't know what it was.
Some kind of mush or something.
It's like goo.
Yeah.
And
comes out of the head of the chicken, right?
Yeah. And then I think at this point, Mary, who's already had like a seizure like episode, and then her mom has some sort of like weird, I don't even know whether it's a seizure, it's just a weird episode of something, and then she runs out of the room. But anyway, she corners him eventually, and she asks him the big question. She says, did you and Mary have sexual intercourse? And Henry is like kind of taken aback by this question, and he really doesn't want to answer it. But he doesn't say no is the important thing. So I guess it's implied that they did. Which eventually this just ends with Mary's mom like kissing Henry on the neck, and this is not like a peck. This is like a full on like open mouth deal.
Let me just insert. This is where Zach lost interest.
And then Mary's obviously upset. She's like, well, stop doing that. And she's like crying, and then he finds out there's a baby at the hospital. You know, maybe she just got excited that she was having a grandkid. I don't know. And then Mary and Henry have to get married because of this. And Mary's like obviously a little scared about how Henry's going to react to this. But he's like, oh, yeah, that's fine. Because that's kind of how he is the whole movie. He's very timid, and I don't know. He doesn't say a lot. And so this is where we move into part 2, which is where the movie gets more interesting, if it wasn't already interesting enough. So Mary and Henry move in together. The alien makes loud noises, and Mary and a mother...
Well, you didn't say that their baby was an alien.
Okay, the baby is an alien, too. So it's not like a normal baby. It's like... How do you want to describe it? Like,
it looked like a baby Bronchiosaurus.
I saw somebody described it as it looks like an AirPod.
I'm looking at it right now. Yeah, it does.
So imagine an AirPod, the top of the AirPod's the head of the alien.
An AirPod Pro Max, or
no, like the older
I'm just
version
joking.
of the AirPod. Yeah,
but then like the bottom is all wrapped in swaddling cloths and lying in a manger.
Yes, and it's just lying on the dresser though, I think.
Yeah, with a tiny pillow, and it doesn't move the whole movie. They don't pick it up or anything.
They hate this baby. Well, no, because Mary, in a loving motherly tone, eventually tells the baby to shut up, and then she gets upset at the baby.
No, I get that.
And storms out and says she can't stand it. She needs a night's sleep, and she's going back to her parents. To which Henry just says, "Okay," or
he says you should stay at your parents'.
Yeah, he does get a little upset, actually. Yeah. You're right. But not before she like comes back and like shakes the bed in like a weird way.
Yeah.
And then,
was that to insinuate like she's serious, or is that just a weird thing?
That for okay. It didn't make any sense.
Okay.
So then Henry is alone with the alien, and he decides, well, he's gonna go to sleep, even though I think the baby keeps crying, but.
Yes, the entire movie, this AirPod is crying. That's actually good, Ben. Wow. And
so he dreams of he dreams, but like it starts out by like zooming into the radiator, which is hissing, and then it goes into the radiator and into this theater where we see a lady with huge cheeks, not those kind of cheeks. Get your mind out of the gutter. I'm talking about the cheeks that are on your face.
Like chipmunk size. They were huge.
They were humongous.
Yeah.
And this woman, she eventually sings the song that I was singing at the start of the movie, but I don't know that this is the point where she sings that.
I think she sings like a verse of it. Or no, she's just standing there and smiling, right? And moving back and forth.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. And
then somehow Jack... this is where I have to make sure I'm sticking to my script so that I know what order this all happened in. I think eventually he ends up out of the... I don't know whether he's out of the dream necessarily, but he sees the woman across the hall who we talked to earlier in the movie. She's very pretty, and it's obvious that he thinks so. And she's like, oh no, I got locked out of my room. Where am I gonna go? Like really close to his face. And he's like, he has no self-control, so he's like, sure, come in. And then they start making out in this like tub thing full of water, but like they look different in that it's weird. Like, so I don't know.
I don't remember this.
I don't even know what's real or what's not. Yeah. And then they like sink into the tub, and then her hair like floats on top.
Oh, I do remember this.
And then that's the point where he goes into the theater again. This time he's in the theater.
The theater that he was imagining in his radiator.
Imagining in his dream. Now he's actually in the theater, and he like touches the woman, and then there's this like bright light, and then after this happens, his head just like shoots off because growing out of him is the alien baby's head. So now the alien baby's head has replaced his head. And his head's just on the ground where it like rolls and there's like blood everywhere.
Well, there's a diorama that wheels on the stage.
Oh, that's right.
And then it opens up in the same type of gush that came out of that one chicken in that one scene.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's the same type of gush, but it was the same type of thing happening.
Yeah.
Like gushing, and it got all over the head.
And then the head falls into like another universe, falls off the stage and falls into the street where we see this like old guy and this young boy, and the young boy just scoops it up. Like he knows instinctively what to do with these artifacts, and takes it to the shop where we meet this guy named Paul, and they're all loud, and they take it to this back room where they like take a sample of his brain, which has been sort of cracked open, and they put it into a machine, and then it like turns the brain into erasers, and then they test out the eraser, they find out it's good, they pay the kid for the head, and so that's where we get the Eraserhead.
Yeah, but I don't know why they would pick that.
Like that symbol.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, well, it's obviously what they did. I don't know why they picked it. It's just that's why the movie's called Eraserheads, because that scene's in the movie.
Yeah.
And this is, like, at this point, like, I kind of forgot that he was dreaming, because as the dust gets brushed off the counter...
He was dreaming this?
Yeah, he wakes up from the... Because I guess he's obviously still alive, so...
Yeah, he would have I just thought it was random cutscenes.
No, he was dreaming.
Okay.
Yeah. Does that make it make more sense?
No.
So now we're back to reality, where he still has a real alien baby. And he looks up, he sees someone getting beat up in the street, and then he looks across at the lady who's the like pretty lady who's across the hall, and she's with this like ugly old guy. So I feel like
I remember laughing at that. That was funny.
Kind of insinuated that she might be a prostitute. I don't want to say that for sure because it wasn't directly said, but
no, she was.
She's either that or she has a really ugly husband.
That was not her husband. He was way too happy to be with her to be her husband. Okay?
Yeah. So I think he's like kind of depressed by this because I think he kind of wanted to be with her, which is kind of messed up because he already has a wife.
Did they actually get married?
I don't know if they actually got married.
I didn't see any rings.
They moved in together for sure.
I didn't see any rings.
They may not have gotten married. So he's kind of depressed and he decides to unwrap the baby. I don't have any idea why he decides to do this.
This is the picture on my screen, man.
He cuts up the middle and he finds out that like the baby doesn't really like have a body. Like the swaddling clothes it's actually more like a whole. It's like everything's an open wound and it was holding it all together or something.
Yeah, there was no structure besides the swaddle around his body. Yeah. So like his organs were just loose within the swaddle. So then he opens it and then all of his organs just fall like apart.
And then you could see like his heart and everything. But then he takes it to another level and he like stabs the heart and it starts like gushing and
that didn't look like a heart. That was like two kidneys right next to each other
or something like that. I don't know.
No, it wasn't anything human. It was disgusting. And it just starts gushing crap out.
Yeah, and like shooting stuff out of his mouth, and then it like the head shoots out and the neck gets really long, and then everything just starts to go kind of crazy. There's lights flashing and there's I don't know, all kinds of stuff going on.
Well, then his head, a giant baby head, appears out of nowhere and keeps appearing and scaring him.
Appearing and yeah, it's insane. It's absolutely crazy, I tell you. And then after this, he reunites with the woman with the huge cheeks, and they embrace. And I think actually before this we had seen the planet that the guy was in exploding and the levers were sparking. It's like he messed up his, I don't know. It seemed like that guy was controlling stuff and now it was like messed up. And then it just fades.
Yeah.
So
I don't know.
And that's Eraserhead for you.
Yeah, Ben. I mean, I expected it to be weird. Ben, for like the past year, has told me it's a weird movie I should watch. But I don't know. I don't know. I don't know if I liked it.
It's a lot to process. You know, you really have to. But it's also because you don't really know what
exactly
that you're supposed to process.
The human brain is limited. We need context. Okay, we can't just decipher these things without explanations.
So what Zach and I are going to try to attempt to do in the next 10 minutes of the podcast or less, however long it takes us, is to try to figure out what the symbols and the themes of the movie are trying to say. What you need to know about David Lynch for context before you start trying to do this is that David Lynch was an abstract painter before he went into filmmaking.
Oh.
So
that makes sense.
He, I think, puts a lot of emphasis on the style and the process of how what you see moves you before he takes into consideration the story and the plot. So the styling and everything and the symbols that you see are way more important than.
Well, I respect that a little bit more.
Yeah. And that's just the nature that I guess how his creative mind works. And you see it in his other movies, although he does have some other movies that are a little bit more straightforward than this, and some that are maybe even less straightforward than this one.
Well, before I give my theory, because I just thought of one, I actually think that makes my impression of the movie better because I'm going to remember this movie based on how I felt by what I watched, you know?
Yeah.
Not that you don't really remember the plots of movies. You kind of just remember different parts of the movie, you know? Usually.
That's true.
So I'm going to remember a lot of parts of this movie, a lot, because they were so weird. So in that way, it's just like an abstract painting. You just look at it. You don't understand it, but you remember it.
Yeah, and I think that there's a level you have to remove that from when you're looking at art to some degree, because sometimes you're trying to read too much meaning into it, and all art isn't necessarily a puzzle to be solved.
But some people leave it subjective for everyone.
Yeah.
Maybe that's what this is.
Yeah, that might be kind of what this is. But I'm sure he had some ideas of what he was going for too at the same time when he was making this movie.
True.
So one of the first themes that sticks out is fatherhood.
Yeah.
And that's he's scared of potentially being committed to the relationship, and then he's hesitant to take on his role of his father, and then he murders his child. So that's a pretty natural progression.
So I know this is something I've read just now about David Lynch. He had a daughter that had surgeries or something like that when she was little. That kind of resembled just the grotesqueness of seeing a baby not look like a baby.
Oh yeah.
So I don't know. I feel like there's a dysmorphia, almost I don't know, something psychological about it that he was trying to display here, because his daughter was born before this movie.
Interesting. See, that I didn't know that.
But that might be an answer that we get later. But right. I was thinking about this. So just when we were talking about the gush, all that crap coming out of the chicken, and then the diorama, and then I was thinking the baby too. Could that have been? So he cut the chicken gushes out, but he cut his baby, the baby gushes out. I don't know.
Yeah.
Is that a similarity or no?
I mean, it definitely seems like you could draw some sort of comparison there. But what do you draw? It's right before he found out that he had a baby.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. But yeah, okay, let's start from the basis of fatherhood and try to draw conclusions of different scenes based on that. Yeah. So if this movie is centralized on the theme of fatherhood, then I don't think he had to have been thinking about being a father while he's cutting that chicken.
No.
I think that it would just be like a foreshadowing almost.
Yeah.
Just kind of pointing to it. But I don't know. Ending your own baby's life is kind of, I don't know.
Well, and what did actually, it's hard to process even what actually happened. Or what you're supposed to, since it seems symbolic, the alien baby is symbolic And then the baby gets sick at one point in the movie. He's like, "Oh, you're sick," and he like sees, not like you're disgusting, but like he was actually like he had like bumps, and then he like puts the thermometer.
It was gross though.
And so, but it's hard because it seems like it's obvious that Mary's like upset at the baby, but it doesn't seem like he like reacts particularly to the baby that much.
Well, I think he's
like, has he even embraced, like maybe it's that he's like not really embracing being a father.
No, he's not, because she said before she left, she said, then you can finally take care of him while you're on your vacation.
Because what has he been doing like this whole time?
Skipping in the industrial park like the beginning of the movie.
Yeah, that looked fun.
He literally steps in the only puddle.
Yeah, and then I guess maybe the woman across the hall is like, that's his like ticket out. Maybe like if he like gets away with her, then he doesn't have to, he can like get rid of, he can run out on his family basically. Yeah. Have somebody else who seems more attractive at the moment.
Yeah. But I don't know. Are there any other similarities? Because I'm trying to think like the parents, if that meant anything, or if that was just like supposed to be a funny, weird two people, Mr. X and Mrs. X.
Yeah. Or is it just supposed to be an overall like life is miserable and just it's like grimy and disgusting all the time?
It could be.
Like, and like being a parent, like everyone talks about it like it's a great thing.
Yes.
It's actually like super scary and like makes your life more complicated. And most people are like too young when they become parents. They aren't really ready. Or there's like, in some ways there's like nothing that prepares you to become a parent, right? So yeah. So, and then they didn't plan to be parents. They weren't married, or even if they weren't married, they hadn't talked about having kids.
True. So, and maybe also like there's an aspect of not connecting with your baby. Yeah. Because mothers connect with their babies more naturally. But true. Like, what if the father doesn't connect at all because he's not there? He's not doing anything. I don't know.
Because he's spending his whole day in the industrial park.
I don't know.
And then there's all of the like the guy and the planet and the lady in the radiator. Yeah. And there's these like surreal images that you see throughout. That like, what is the heaven? In heaven, everything is fine. You've got your problems and I've got mine. Like,
I've got a theory. What if the guy controlling the lever was like a god figure? He's controlling everything that happens the way that it's supposed to happen. Because he obviously shows struggle when he leaves his fatherhood behind by killing his son and joining in his fantasy, right? Yeah. So he's leaving that life kind of like, this life was forced on him. Then he kind of just quits, right? Like that's kind of his arc. So then he quits, and then the lever guy goes crazy and has sparks and the planet explodes. So maybe it's like that wasn't supposed to happen. So like he rebelled? He rebelled against the societal norm of fatherhood.
Wow. Yeah. I guess that might be kind of more what happened. And then when he goes, what's the lady in the radiator? Is that just supposed to represent an escape? Like just any escape
I thought that was his wife who got fat at first.
I don't think so. I think
no, it's not. It's definitely not.
She just got fat in her face. She didn't necessarily get...
Yeah. And it was obviously paper mache. It looked terrible. But what do you do with a $10,000 budget?
That's true. AFI gave him $10,000. They were like, make a movie.
And the movie made $23,000. So he made $13,000 profit.
I thought I saw, though, that overall, after it was all said and done, it made like $7 million.
What?
Yeah. Now, I read that on Wikipedia. Like, I don't know how over what time period
that's was. Like the biggest multiplication of spending versus making for like...
Yeah, but like who saw that money? Like who got... Let's see whether I can actually verify that number.
I don't know. But yeah, the radiator girl, I think represented like his fantasy that wasn't reality. And he's choosing to pursue that no matter what that represents. I don't know. But he's choosing that over his biological norm. Which also, like, biological norms are a theme in this movie because they have a baby and it's an alien. Right. So maybe, like, what is biology?
And then, like, the aliens, like, there's these other aliens that are shown, and they're all shaped like sperm. Like, and is that, like, biological reference as well?
Yeah. We might be getting on something. That's true. But, yeah, you do got to connect somehow. Like, what did it represent when the baby's head came out of his body?
Like, is it like my life was my own, and now I have a child?
Yeah.
And it like that my child's life takes over my life, essentially.
Yes, because that's exactly what happened. Okay.
And then when it rolls down and his head becomes an eraser, it's like I actually don't know what that represents.
But yeah, he loses himself. So if the head represents his old life that was replaced by his kid's life, then it gets sold, made into an eraser, and erased. Is that what it means? Eraserhead. His head represents his old life, and it gets erased.
Yeah, I don't like. But who are you selling it like to your child?
No, it's just symbolic.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Like his old life is gone.
Right.
I don't think you needed to do that whole sequence to explain that, if that's what it represents, because there's got to be more to it though.
I mean, I think there's a lot of dread in the movie, like just overall, like a lot of maybe like existential dread over. But the thing is, I don't know what he's pursuing. Like, it doesn't seem like he's necessarily looking for like meaning, like because his life before he has a kid seems like absolutely like a horrible life, like so boring, and like.
But he enjoys it.
Does he
more than fatherhood, because he wanted to pursue. Well, obviously he was having sex with this girl, so he doesn't care. True. He's just trying to have fun. And then this the girl across the hall, he likes her. He's willing to commit adultery or whatever.
Yeah.
And then he's willing to just kill his kid and leave. So he's obviously trying to pursue just a lifestyle with no responsibility.
Yeah, like basically it seems like he's representing like someone who wants to take the path of least resistance. So they're not like, in order to be like hugely successful, you could still be a horrible person, but you'd have to face a lot of like things that were kind of challenging. Whereas he's more like, he takes his job at the printer where he can work and I guess get a lot of vacation and not have a lot of responsibility. Doesn't get to live in like a great place, but like if you're fine with that, you know, you can kind of just stick with the status quo. So now maybe he's just accepted that this is where my life is, and nothing was upsetting the balance until he had a kid.
True. So we agree this is about fatherhood somewhat.
I mean, it seems like, I'm trying to even think what other angle you would take.
I don't know, because I think we made a lot of connections actually from that perspective.
Yeah.
So I'm convinced it's that. That's my theory.
Yeah. Okay.
I don't know.
So we'll settle on that. This movie is a movie about fatherhood, and it's not like one of those happy movies about fatherhood where it's like, oh, I had a kid and now I'm like so much better of a person because like the kid like challenged me and shaped me into being like realizing that I need to take care of someone and I have this responsibility and there's nothing that I would love more in the world than my child. Although I'm not, yeah, I think, or at least it would be in the things that you love the most, along with other members of your family. However,
your wife.
Obviously, you should order them, right? Like,
yeah.
If you had to pick,
there are no.
You don't. Kidding.
No. Every family has a favorite kid. Okay, there's no such thing as non-favorite.
No, I was more
kids.
talking about like if you're a father, is like your child or your spouse.
Spouse.
Yeah, it seems because the spouse is the one you committed to.
No, yeah, if you love
the child's the one you created. So like,
well, if you love your spouse, then your child will see that.
Yeah, it's true, and then it'll carry over.
Yeah, if you prioritize your spouse, then you have another person to look after your child.
True.
So
yeah,
you have to make sure to nurture your spouse so that your child gets nurtured times 2. So right. It's reciprocal helping.
And that's parenthood with Zach Leewell.
Yes, it is.
Okay, we're gonna go to an ad break, and then we'll come back with a view from David Lynch and maybe a view from somebody else on what Eraserhead means.
And see how wrong we are.
Yeah. So if you find yourself in some sort of nightmarish reality where you're in a bad apartment, probably needs a lot of things fixed, you might just want to move to a house. And when you buy that house, you probably need home insurance. And if you want home insurance, you should contact Hedman Anglin Agency, because they're known for saving people a lot of money on home, auto, and business insurance. If you're interested in saving money, aka you're anybody in the entire world, you should call 614-486-7300. That's 614-486-7300.
Sorry.
Especially in today's economy, you need to save money. So I wish they had gas insurance, but they don't. I don't know what that would actually be.
Gas insurance.
It's like you pay a certain amount of money per month, so that if gas goes over a certain amount, your insurance just like covers the extra amount.
What amount?
Above that.
It's already above $5.
Like, well, it wouldn't really make sense for the insurance company, but like, say you were like in an economy where gas was like $2 a gallon, and so you bought insurance and you paid a little bit extra every month, so that if gas went above $3.50 a month ever, you only had to pay $3.50, and the insurance company would pay the rest.
Are you making this up?
I'm making this up.
Oh, okay.
Because I don't think this could ever work because how inflation. And maybe it could.
Well, it changes so often.
Yeah. Inflation would like make the floor rise.
They could
because it can go down from here, but
they can annually adjust it.
Yeah. It seems like maybe it would just make everything more expensive too, because that's sometimes with insurance companies.
Yeah, but then if you have to use premium or diesel, like. I would.
You have to have a different plan.
Yeah.
Anyway, maybe this is a horrible idea, but if you work in the insurance industry, perhaps you can make something out of that. So we discussed what we thought the film might mean, and we thought that it was about fatherhood. And Zach, what is the film actually about?
I don't know. I still don't. There were probably like 3 or 4 prominent theories that we came up with. One of them was like, what his child, the alien AirPod child, represents like a symbol of, I don't know, a way of, it's like a lens of looking at a child, of having a child. Like it's a disgust, like I don't want to have a child. He's going to be disgusting. He's going to look like an alien. He's looking like an AirPod. Why should I have a child? Ugh, I'm going to hate being a father, you know? And then he embraces the lady in the radiator, which is like happiness. Although Ben has a different theory where the lady is like the child, but I think
the theories kind of are the same. It's just like the symbols change a little bit, because like in the end, the idea is that you embrace the bliss of parenthood rather than by killing the fear, and the alien baby is the fear. So rather than looking at this from like a concrete angle where like he's like actually killing his actual baby, it's like he's killing the idea that his baby is going to end up being a disgusting monster and destroying his life, and that he's embracing that parenthood is not something you have to be like looking over your shoulder, that it might like creep up on you.
Although that's the thing.
And fatherhood, like it's actually like will bring joy and happiness to your life, and it won't just be like a nightmare.
Yeah, but I don't see him as that kind of guy that does the right thing. He hasn't shown himself throughout the entire movie to do the right thing.
What has he shown himself to be in general? The thing is, he seems like a very like
he's
surface level person.
Obviously he hadn't talked with his girlfriend. He's just wandering around. He doesn't seem to have a plan or any general sense of direction.
Maybe that's the reason. Like it's like he's embracing a sense of direction.
So he's making a change, and that's his arc. But
he just looks like he has like a lot of like anxiety and fear in his eyes at all times. Like that's how I think. Like he looks like he maybe has a little bit of social anxiety.
Yeah.
Like he's not necessarily the best with talking to people.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, he's maybe not the worst, but he's just kind of, lost. And this is like a way that he can change that by embracing a certain direction, perhaps.
Yeah. But I don't see it as like I don't see it like he's killing his baby. I don't look at it like that. I look at it like he's killing the fear of having a disgusting child. But I also see like him trying to escape fatherhood. So
maybe in the way that you're looking at it, like he is actually becoming a father. Like that's so. What if you cut like where I cut where he found out like we have a baby at the hospital? Mm-hmm. Did they say the baby looked weird?
Yeah, they said he's born very prematurely, and we don't know if it's a baby yet.
Oh yeah, that's right. Okay. Well, had they said that they just had a baby at the hospital, you could make the argument that like that split the movie, and like the other half was like he was like flashing forward to like a nightmarish.
Well, you could have cut it before that. When the mom's kissing his neck.
Yeah, that's where it changes. That's
why I lost interest.
But there's other symbols of parenthood throughout too, because there's symbols of having to take care of your parent with the grandma who can't really do anything for herself, I don't think.
No.
And there's a big litter of dogs on the floor at the grandma's house. Not the grandma's, the parents' house. Mm-hmm. And they're all like, the litter's nursing and all of that. So there's other symbols of parenthood throughout. But yeah, I think that kind of makes the most sense, is that he's just embracing that
Yeah, I don't want to give him credit like that. He's trying to become a good father. I don't think that's what's happening. I don't see evidence.
Well,
of that.
maybe just because he's embracing that doesn't necessarily mean he'd be a good father, does it?
No, I don't think he's embracing it though. That's the thing.
Okay.
I think he's embracing happiness and to avoid fatherhood.
So maybe he killed the baby like, I'm just going to run away. So he runs into the radiator like he's running away from the family and the child.
I think him killing his baby was him not getting rid of his responsibility and living a carefree life with the person he's been daydreaming about.
Yes, okay.
Because why would he be daydreaming about doing the right thing all day?
Yeah, but he's daydreaming. I think that's where the argument that the character dancing represents the child is, because he's not daydreaming about the girl with the big cheeks in the theater the same way he's daydreaming about the girl who lives across the hall who's the prostitute.
Exactly, yeah.
So when he's embracing her, it's like a platonic or like a father-like embrace.
So deep down he has that desire to love her, and you're saying that would be like a biological urge to love your child.
I don't know. I think that they're arguing that the biological urge comes from the child to the father, not from the father to the child.
Because she's calling out to him?
Yeah.
But then he just embraces like, oh, this child loves me and depends on me, so I need to love it back. So I'm going to kill my bad image of my child.
Yes, in that theory, that's the framework.
Okay.
The other ones, there's the general idea that the baby represents fear and that he's like blocking out his world. They try to use this argument that there's like, I got this from some Twin Peaks fan website called Welcome to Twin Peaks.
It's a great show, by the way.
Anyway, this guy, he argued, or he or she, whoever wrote the article, argued that there's bricks that is like blocking the window, and they slowly like come down, which I didn't even notice this, so it was kind of hard to see what it's referencing.
You would have to watch it more than once.
He looks out the window and sees people fighting, and then he stabs the baby, and it's like he's killing his like fear in general, like the fear of living, I guess, the fear of like the environment that he lives in, and is just because he does look like he's a very anxious and fearful person, like throughout the movie. That's kind of the general gist of like, seems like he always does everything hesitatingly, and it's like he's almost afraid to stand up for himself in any situation, other than when his wife fights with him that one time. That's the only time where he really like offers any resistance to anyone.
But that's where my theory comes back in, because him standing up for himself would be, no, I'm not okay with marrying you. Because she said, are you okay to get married? And he's timid. He's like, yeah. But if he's overcoming that timidness, then what the director's insinuating is in that moment he should have said no.
Maybe, yeah.
Right?
I guess maybe.
But that's why I'm thinking my theory, because there seems to be this underlying anxiety that he needs to overcome. We agree with that. In all the theories, there's that. There's an anxiety that he overcomes and he goes towards peace or happiness.
Right.
Now we just have to describe what that was. Now I'm giving evidence of that he was talking with the mom who was kissing his neck, and then they ask him like, hey, are you going to marry? Kind of forcing him in that situation. That was his anxiety and timidness that make him say yes. And if he's overcoming that, then that's saying that he should have done the right thing, quotation marks, and not been a father. And then at the end of the movie, he kills his son. So then that's what we're arguing about. What does that mean? I think killing his son means he's giving up fatherhood like he should have in the first part of the movie.
Right.
And actually standing up for himself and not being a father. It's such a twist. I think it's twisted. I don't know. But yeah, I think that's why I think of it like that.
Like it's like being a father, like he's not ready to be a father, so he should stand up for himself. And
or maybe it's not his son.
But like, yeah, that's true too, because it's an alien. I don't know.
But that's thinking literally again. I don't know.
Yeah.
But anyway, David Lynch said that he was reading the Bible and found inspiration from that and for parts of this movie.
So basically what we're saying is this is a Christian movie. And if you're a Christian and you go to church, and you should watch this movie, you know? And you'll have it'll be a lot. I mean, like, obviously read the Bible like David Lynch. If David Lynch reads the Bible, what excuse do you have?
I think it's hilarious because he was probably reading Abraham and Isaac, where Abraham was willing to sacrifice his son. I don't know.
Really? Like, maybe he was reading like Daniel or something.
Maybe,
Like,
but
I feel like David Lynch would read exclusively the more abstract passages of the Bible.
I think he misinterpreted Abraham and Isaac, saying that he should have killed his son.
Yeah, he was like, wait, God got it wrong.
This Abraham guy's a wuss. He was not even going to kill his son.
He couldn't even do it. He just took the ram. What if the ram was just coincidentally there? God still wanted him to kill
The
Isaac.
ram is the radiator, which represents Jesus, but that means the woman in the radiator is Jesus. Yeah, we can't take it too far. What are you talking about, David Lynch? Where's the Bible in this? Anyway.
I saw the headline that was like, David Lynch says Eraserhead's his most spiritual film.
Yeah.
Which is like bizarre.
Yeah,
but,
I don't know.
I don't know that I would describe his other films as particularly spiritual. They're definitely psychological a lot of the time, and like have more abstract elements, just like Eraserhead, but maybe not spiritual.
Well, we did also talk about, so a couple things did bring up the theory of his daughter had some surgeries and stuff like that, and this kind of was that like that. But I'm kind of going away from that a little bit now.
Like that, it's like a more personal story about like him having to embrace fatherhood when it's like not what he expected.
Yeah, I think that could be an element of it, but I don't know if it's his personal experience. I think he maybe had personal experience, but he seemed to love his daughter. Like his daughter was on set with him, so
right.
Yeah,
he's like, here's my story about you, honey.
Yeah,
sit down and watch this.
But that's the thing. They filmed a scene with his daughter in it that didn't make the final cut.
Oh, really?
Where she's digging up dimes.
Interesting.
Would have just added another thing for us to speculate about.
We'd be like, ooh, what did that symbolize?
How many dimes did she pick up? $1.40. Okay.
$1.40. That now, if we add that,
140 BC. Let's see. What were the Egyptians doing?
Yeah, that is the thing about like. I think that's one reason why people gravitate to David Lynch is because there's like it's like a puzzle that can be endlessly solved. So, and that's like this is. The other movie maybe that comes to my head that he's done is Mulholland Drive. And I remember I watched that movie and it's like equally like this movie where it's like you'd be like, oh yeah, it's a cool movie. But then like somebody's like, okay, well, what's it about? And you're like, well, I mean, and then you start thinking about it and you're like, what is it about? Because it seems it's like there's a bunch of random things that happen and they're like seem connected, but they're not actually that connected when you start trying to explain them to somebody else.
Yeah, but it's no coincidence he was an abstract painter before.
Yeah.
He wants us to get an impression of the movie that we'll remember.
And what I've realized is that David Lynch is probably the best director I've seen at putting dreams, the best representation that we can have of dreams on the movie screen. Because especially with Mulholland Drive, it has this, it's like everything seems to flow well together, yet it seems so distinct from each other, just like a dream. When you're dreaming, you'll be in one dream and you'll be in that world, and then all of a sudden you'll just be somewhere else. But it made sense that you got from one place to another.
That's true. That's a type of dream, but I also think that there's some dreams that I've had have been super realistic.
Yeah, there's more vivid dreams.
But I think you're right. That's a type of dream.
But these are maybe the more surreal dreams.
Yeah.
When they use the term surreal, they're trying to describe that disconnect where it's like it seems totally random, but also there's this like there's this thing that's almost unexplainable that connects the things together. And that's what this movie sort of has elements of that. Definitely has elements of surrealism with the dreams. But it actually is like he's actually dreaming in parts of the movie too. So
true. I didn't realize that.
That more concrete, like, because he wakes up from the dream. Like, I don't think you realize where the exact point where he goes into the dream, which is kind of like falling asleep. Yeah. Like you kind of don't. And then you wake up and you know that you were in a dream and that it ended. But then the rest of the movie also seems dreamlike to an extent because it doesn't make a lot of sense from what we've experienced.
I think there was one thing that we forgot to talk about. So what was the thing that he got in the mail? Brought it up, put it in his pocket, hid it from his wife, saying we didn't get any mail. And it was like a little leech or something like that.
Maybe he just found it and he was like, this is weird, and he didn't get any mail. I don't know. Or maybe he's involved in some activities he's trying to hide from his wife that involve the mail. I don't know.
No, but the leech was the mail.
The leech?
Yeah, remember he opens the mailbox. He gets like this little leech alien thing.
Oh yeah.
And then he puts it in his robe.
And then that's the
goes to bed, sleeps with it.
And that's the thing that falls out and like goes across the floor.
And then he wakes up that night, and then there's all these sperm things in their bed. Okay, well, not actual sperm things, but sperm-looking things in their bed. Yeah, I'm just gonna say it. Yeah, that's what it was.
Yeah. And then he starts like pulling them out and like throwing them against the wall.
They're squishing.
And then they like squish against the wall.
It has to be fatherhood.
Yeah.
Literally a giant sperm thing comes out of his mouth.
Do you think that's like a representation of contraception? Like he's like throwing the sperm against the wall. They're like breaking, like now you can't fertilize the egg.
Yes, I do.
When Zach and I started the Movie Vault, we definitely imagined that we would have this conversation right now.
About contraception.
I don't know. Those are the parts of the film that I'm like, I know that was in the movie, but like when I wrote my whole thing, I didn't write that in there exactly. So now I have no idea where it was in the movie, because if you don't order it, you're gonna lose track of what happened when, because it doesn't really it doesn't have a flow in that way. There'd be nothing that would stop you from thinking it'd be in this part of the movie versus that part.
Well, we even forgot major parts of the plot. That's the thing.
Yeah,
because it's disconnected. Yeah. Supposedly, we have to.
So maybe it's like it says a lot about you, the parts that you remember. You know.
What? Yeah. What do you remember? That's like the ink blots.
Yeah.
Say, like when in psychiatry, you show your patient an ink blot. What do they see? Supposedly, when they see some abstract image, they're going to impose their own thoughts on it and say something that they're subconsciously thinking about. But maybe that's what David Lynch was going for, but maybe not.
We could be reading too much into it, or maybe we're not. I don't know.
Maybe it's just like something super simple and dumb, and David's just hiding
it. Actually, I had this funny joke that I thought of, and
he's like, sperm. Super funny, yeah. I just wanted to have sperm throughout the entire movie,
and I wanted people to think that I was serious.
Yeah. And I wanted this guy's hair to look like an eraser, and that's why I called it Eraserhead. I just wanted a bunch of gore, just people dying. Just wanted him to kill a baby. I was reading the Bible the other night, and I just wanted him to kill a baby, just like these pagans did. He's probably reading about the pagan sacrifices. He's like, "Ooh, this is great. This is great. This is great stuff."
Good artistic. I was reading the Bible. I was actually reading about the Israelites when they stopped following God. They started following the false gods.
I was reading about the god of Molech, where they sacrifice babies to them, and the Balaam.
That was such an interesting part of the Bible.
It's like I really resonated with those pagans.
And now when I market it, I'll just say that I was reading the Bible. And that was my
get all the Christian audience. What is your target demographic? Christians, for sure. Yes, yeah. Christians and pagans. Yeah. So anybody who celebrates Christmas. So anybody but the Jews.
Sorry, anybody who's not a Christian or a pagan.
No, it leaves everyone out but the Jews, basically.
Yes. So. Oh man. Whew. Yeah, this film was developed on a $10,000 budget, and they stretched that budget, and it wasn't enough. So they I think he married some guy's daughter, and he loaned him some money, and then he got money from doing a paper route. I read. I was like, what? How, you make 25 cents a day doing a paper route? How did he turn that into one half of one scene or something? I don't know. But that's how they developed the film, and it took 5 years mostly because of money. Yeah. But I think he helped design a lot of the stuff, and the sound design is often referenced as being because it's very industrial,
This is what I'll give David Lynch credit for, and usually I'm not one to love directors like Ben. Ben loves directors a lot more than I do, but I'll give him credit. I watched Twin Peaks. I think he has a clear vision. I think he has the whole story in mind before he even writes the script. I think each part is somewhat intentional, even if he's trying to throw people off. And did David, you say he wrote the script and stuff like that?
Yeah, I think so.
So, I think whatever it was probably deep. Let's just assume, because watching Twin Peaks, I think even the characters in the plot, it's very dense, and you can miss a scene and not remember it, and then it could either come up later or just mean something in that moment when you rewatch it.
The weird thing about Twin Peaks compared to any of his other stuff is that Twin Peaks sort of feels like a soap opera.
It does.
And then also feels it has a lot of deeper meaning. Yeah. In some places you feel this is just a sappy teen drama where they're oh my gosh, I love this person, but then she died, and I realized that my true love was this other girl.
There are no faithful
And
relationships in Twin Peaks.
Everybody's like in an adulterous relationship and or having an affair or and then like
It's so funny. There are like 10 couples in Twin Peaks. No, maybe
some
like
people might
12.
be having multiple affairs.
And then
honestly.
it's like each scene, there's always like a bunch of revelations in each episode. And it's always like, oh, they woke up together. They're sleeping together. Wait, I thought they were faithful. Wait, they woke up with that person. Wait, they're sleeping with this person. And it's just like constantly like, oh yeah, this person's sleeping with this person who's sleeping with this person. Like throughout the entire first season. Like 20 different arrangements going on between 6 people.
Yeah, it is actually crazy. Yeah. But at the same time, there's like all this like they're like, it's almost like we're just, and we haven't watched season 2 yet or the final season, where they like, it's just scratching the surface of whatever they're getting to about like human darkness and like whatever Laura Palmer was involved in. You just gotta watch Twin Peaks. It's on, well, what do you have to get? Like,
I got Amazon Prime.
Oh, it's on, yeah. It's on, is it on Amazon? Is it actually on Amazon Prime? Because I bought it.
You bought it on Prime?
I bought it on Prime, yeah. I don't have Prime.
Oh, no. Yeah, it's on Prime, I think, because I did a free trial.
Oh,
and I've been watching it.
Paramount Plus.
No, I did a free trial on Amazon Prime.
Okay, interesting.
Because I couldn't get Paramount to work. It was only like 5 days or 7 days for Paramount.
That's why. Yeah. So, I'll probably just buy this.
I hope I'm not paying for Paramount still.
It's like the worst network of all time. Yeah. Man, people need to stop making. There's too many. There's too many of these streaming services.
National Geographic needs to make one.
Yeah, I think
they're in Disney Plus, but
didn't they already make one? Like it has like HGTV on it.
I don't know. I know they have a whole section on Disney Plus though. I like that.
So David Lynch is probably my favorite director over Quentin Tarantino.
Seriously?
Because I've grown out of Quentin Tarantino. He's beneath me now. I'm on to David Lynch. I'm sure eventually I'll be the fan of some obscure European director who has a difficult name to pronounce, who made one 5-hour film that's like super slow. Once I get to that point, then I can look down on everyone and be like, and view myself as better. But right now I'm on David Lynch. But I mean, some of his movies are definitely like more, are like edgier than this movie, have like crazier, like more psychological. Some of his films have like weird sexual, psychological kind of zeitgeists. So that definitely made him a bit controversial. But I don't know that, like, he just has a different way of looking at things. I think he just has a vision and he just puts it out there, and people just have to react to that.
Yeah, no matter if you like it or not, he had a plan the whole time. I think that's part of it.
Right.
And he's creative.
There's still many of his movies that I haven't watched. I haven't watched the original Dune, which he's disowned. I haven't watched Elephant Man or the Twin Peaks prequel Fire Walk with Me, or whatever movie he made that had Nicolas Cage in it.
Why did he disown Dune?
That was one of those deals where there was like a production studio involved, and it got kind of like hairy, where David Lynch and them had disagreements, and they were just trying. I think they were trying to do too much too soon. Like they saw what Star Wars did, and they were trying to make Dune into like the next Star Wars, and it didn't turn out that way. And really, they needed to wait until
Why would they hire
21? Denis Villeneuve. I think he maybe made Elephant Man after he made Eraserhead, and then made Dune.
Why would you make David Lynch the next guy to make Star Wars?
I don't know.
It's not a broad audience appeal.
Dune, I know, is a kind of a more dense, perhaps, story. Like, because it was a book before. That's the other thing.
It's a bunch of books.
And I think the book is probably somewhat difficult to read. I don't know. I haven't tried to read it.
Just assuming if everybody wants to.
I can't barely read a book that was written for 5th graders nowadays, though. That's how I used to be able to read a lot, and now ever since now I have to read for school, and now reading just seems boring. I've equated reading with boringness. It's a problem.
Yeah, it is a problem.
We're overstimulated in our society.
Yeah,
really says a lot about society that
That's
we can't
true.
even make Eraserhead anymore because we'll get bored.
I did get bored. Every shot was 20 seconds long.
We can't even make a really weird movie about an alien baby. Like, you have to. What do you have to do? What do you have to do now?
They should make more movies maybe quicker shots and in color, but more movies like this in like a
snappier, perhaps.
Maybe, but like where it's just like you don't have to know what's going on. You don't have to over-explain. You don't have to come up with a dumb theory of why this is happening. But like, or you don't even have to like they just jump right into a story. You know? I don't know.
I think people like watching movies that like has a twist, and then they have to look up the explanation, and then they like the satisfaction of knowing the explanation. So it kind of doesn't work because in a movie like this, there's like too many things happening that.
I'm saying they should make more of these for me.
Yeah,
but not this slow. I got so bored.
Yeah, pick up the pace a little bit. All right.
Yeah,
let's get this going a little faster.
It was. I remember. Well, after I said this 3 times, but I'm just gonna say it again. When that mom was kissing his neck, I was just like, this movie is not gonna be one of my favorites. I got really turned off by that. Turned me off of the movie. So.
Yeah, that was definitely odd. An odd, not expected. Do you think that did that call back to her like weird episode where she was like yelling at the table after the chickens started moving, like where she kind of
spazzy a little bit,
like she spasms and does random stuff because she seemed really upset, and then all of a sudden it's
then
like,
she stops kissing him and then she's mad again.
Yeah, it's like she didn't even know it happened,
and he didn't even like flinch.
And Mary's just crying, and you're like, "Oh, this poor girl. Her parents are the."
And the dad is still smiling at the table. It's so creepy.
Well, the grandma just got left in the kitchen or something. She wasn't even at the table.
She says the cigarette's still in her mouth. She can't even take it out of her mouth. She can't breathe.
Her lungs are like on fire now. Man. Well, that's Eraserhead.
Yeah, sure.
And if this doesn't make you want to watch the movie, nothing will. Nothing will. So
watch the ending. It's cool.
Yeah. Watch. Honestly, you could just watch clips of the movie in whatever order you want, and it would probably make just as much sense.
True. Watch a YouTube video about it. That'd be good.
Yeah.
Like a theory video.
There's probably some people who have made some really interesting theory videos.
Mm-hmm.
I will not probably add my name to that list because it seems too complex for me to try to make a coherent idea.
I think he's tricking us. I think it's dumb, and he's tricking us. That's what I would do.
What if he actually it's actually just abstract, like he didn't really have anything in mind.
But he said nobody has figured out what it is, so there's something. Yeah, unless he's just saying that so that we try to make theories.
But does he
continue?
He read the Bible. He can't be somebody who would lie.
True, but unless his hero of the Bible are the pagans
or people who are
Baal
or Samson, because he's known for lying.
That's true. That's true, and that would represent all the hair.
Yeah, maybe that was
But the killing of
maybe
the baby.
The poll question will be: what book of the Bible was do you think David Lynch was reading?
We should do that. Let's do that one.
On Spotify. What book of the Bible was David Lynch reading when he wrote Eraserhead?
I don't know. Wow, the studio just all the power just turned off in the studio.
All right, I think that's our signal to end.
Yeah.
So, we will sign off.
Yes.
Closing the vault.
In 3,
2,
1.
I'm making erasers.
That's me throwing the sperm at the wall. And that's Ben coughing.
Yeah, I've been coughing the whole episode, and hoping nobody noticed.
Ben.
In heaven. I forget what the rest of I just like that song. It's just a good song.
We should end this outro.